you have a partner who never calls you, never includes you in their plans, and somehow leaves you feeling like you're always the one trying to make the relationship work? Do you have a boss who constantly criticizes and you keep asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? Or maybe you keep trying to change situations that are simply not in your control. You try harder, you overthink, you plan, you explain, you adjust yourself, and the more you try to fix everything, the more exhausted you become. So, what if the real thing taking away your peace isn't the situation itself? What if it is the belief that you have to control it? And here's the thing, it looks like control, it feels like control, but it was never actually about control. It's about wanting to be loved, wanting to matter, wanting to know for certain that you are not going to be one left out, left behind, left waiting. Control was just a tool you picked up along the way to try to guarantee that. Because somewhere at some point you learned that if you didn't manage it yourself, nobody else would. In this video, I am going to tell you why you are choosing fixed mode all the time, why you try to control people. Part 1, the 4 ways we cope with disappointment. Let me ask you something honestly. When something disappoints you, a friend pulls away, you get left out, someone doesn't show up the way you needed to, what do you actually do? Because most of us fall into one of the 4 patterns, and I want to see which one is yours. Some of us try to control everything. We replan, we re-explain, we send that follow-up text clarifying what we really mean. We rehearse the conversation before it even happens. We try to change the outcome so carefully that nobody gets the chance to disappoint us again. Except, and here's the problem that never actually works. You cannot change another human the way you need them to. Ever. Some of us do opposite. We shrink, we go quiet, we assume we did something wrong and start apologizing for existing, for taking up too much space in a friendship, in a room, a group chat. We start changing ourselves down before anyone even asks us to, hoping that if there is less of us, there is less of us to reject. Some of us chase. We try harder, we become more useful, more agreeable, more available, hoping the effort finally earns us a permanent seat at the table. But here's what nobody tells you. A seat you have to keep earning was never really yours to begin with. A place you have to trying to get over and over isn't a place. It is a performance with no break. And it shows up in the places that have nothing to do with where it actually started. Now here's the question, what's staying with it? Underneath all 4 of these, what's actually going on? Somewhere along the way we started mistaking control for love. We love someone so we want to keep them close, keep them predictable, keep them exactly the way we need them to be, because if they stay predictable we get to stay comfortable, and that's exactly where the trouble starts. Not because love is the problem, because we quietly exchange loving someone for managing them without ever noticing the switch. And part 2, where this actually comes from. Here's a question I think is worth asking honestly. Why do we control people in the first place? Because nobody wakes up one morning and just decides to become a controlling person. There is always a history underneath it, usually one that made complete sense at the time. Think about it this way. If you grew up in a house where things felt unstable, where a parent's mood could flip a room in a second, you learned a very specific lesson. Nobody sat you down and taught it to you on purpose. You just take it. If something is wrong, I have to fix it. Not because fixing it was good, exactly because fixing it was safe. A kid who grows up in an anxious household becomes an expert firefighter, running around putting out emotional fires before they spread. Because once upon a time, an unmanaged fire really did mean danger. But it shows up when your partner goes quiet at dinner and you can't rest until you know exactly why. It shows up when a coworker seems a little off and you spend the whole afternoon replaying the last conversation. It shows up when someone you love makes a decision you don't agree with, and instead of one honest conversation, so no, you're not controlling because you are fundamentally a controlling person. You're controlling because somewhere along the way, control become the only tool you had for managing fear. And here's something that actually sting with. The more you try to control what you were never able to control in the first place, the more anxious you become, not less. Control doesn't calm your nervous system the way you think it will. It visits every act of control and quietly confirms to your body that the world really is dangerous and unpredictable, which just makes you hold tighter the next time something feels uncertain. Part 3, the gap between what is and what you wish for. Now, here's a question. How much of your daily suffering comes from what is genuinely happening right now and how much comes from wishing in this exact moment that things were different. Because if you are honest, most of us, our pain isn't really about the event at all. It's about the gap between the moment we are actually in and the moment we wish we were in instead. You weren't invited. That's the event. But the pain is the story you layered on the top of it. This means I'm not important to them. This means something is wrong with me. This shouldn't be happening. This proves something terrible about who I am. At that point, you are not just experiencing disappointment anymore. You are fighting reality itself, and reality annoyingly always wins that fight. There's actually a strange kind of relief in accepting this, not because it makes the disappointment dissipate, but because it stops the bleeding. You can feel sad you weren't included without needing that sadness to mean something sad about your work. The event and the meaning are two separate things, and most of our suffering lives entirely in the second one. Part 4, taking back the power you give away. I want to clear something up because the first time I started thinking this way, I got it wrong myself. Stepping back from trying to control other people can sound a lot like giving up, like you are just supposed to lie down and let life happen to you. It's actually the opposite. Think about it practically. When you're angry at a coworker, replaying the same argument in your head for the fifth time that day, who is actually being affected by that replay loop? Not them. They have probably already gone home and forgetting about it. You are the one still stuck there, and you are giving your entire afternoon, your focus, your mood, your power. You are giving on a silver platter without them even asking it. The moment you release your understanding on their behavior is the exact moment you take that power back. Because you stop outsourcing your emotional state to someone else's choices, someone else's bad day, someone else's forgetfulness. You have spent years, maybe decades, believing you know exactly how things should go, how your friends should treat you, how your family should show up for you. And every time reality refuses to match that script, you try to force it back into line through explaining, through guilt, through poor effort. But here's the blunt truth underneath it. Your control was always smaller than you thought. Other people carry their own histories, their own wiring, their own limitations that generally have nothing to do with you, no matter how personally you take them. Their opinion of about you doesn't change your actual value. It never did and it never will. You matter simply because you exist, not because everyone in that group chat remembered to include you this time. And part 5, stop chasing people who already left. Okay, this part might hurt a little. Stop wasting your energy chasing someone who has already left. A lot of us do this. Chasing friendship that have quietly ended. Chasing approval from people who stopped offering it a long time ago. Chasing relationships that are, if you are honest, just memories dressed up as something still alive. Because somewhere inside we believe we need their validation to be okay, and that belief isn't entirely rational. We are wired for connection. Needing other people is part of being human, not a weakness. But here's the correction worth making. You cannot take love or validation by force. It is given freely or it isn't given at all. That's no third option where enough effort eventually attracts it out of someone. Chasing it doesn't create it. It just exhausts you slowly, invisibly, while you keep telling yourself it's almost working. And if someone didn't love you the way you needed them to, that doesn't mean something is broken in you. But when we don't understand that distinction, we do something quietly painful. We turn the disappointment inward instead of just letting it be what it is. We decide we must have done something wrong, that we are too much or somehow not enough, and that's surely why they left. But their leaving doesn't require your self-punishment as proof that this mattered. It just means they left. Part 6, why pressure never actually works. Now, let's talk about a different kind of person. Someone you genuinely love them. The friend who won't take care of themselves. The partner who avoids the doctor no matter how many times you bring it up. The family member stuck in a pattern you can see so clearly from the outside and they somehow can't see at all from the inside. Here's the hard truth worth staying with. Pressure doesn't create change. It creates resistance to it. The moment someone feels pushed, their brain doesn't quite think, you are right, I should change. It thinks almost instantly, I need to defend myself. That's not the correct. That's just how the human brain is wired to respond to pressure. And no amount of frustration on your part is going to change that wiring. Traits don't work. Guilt trips don't work. Passive aggressive comments don't work. Even the most logically perfect argument you have doesn't work. Because none of it addresses the real mechanism behind change. Real change has to become their idea, not yours. You can still be part of that process, but your role has to shift from enforcer to influence, and influence looks almost nothing like pressure, which is honestly the hardest part to accept. It looks like repeating back what someone just told you so they feel genuinely hurt instead of quietly managed. It looks like offering a real, honest compliment. When you let go of the pressure, you free up all the energy you are pouring into control, and you get to become someone whose presence actually makes change feel possible instead of someone people have to protect themselves against it. Part 7. What is actually in your hands? This is the part that hit me hardest if I'm being completely honest. You are in charge of what happens next, not what already happened. You genuinely don't get a say in that anymore, no matter how many times you replay it. But what happens in the next 5 minutes, the next conversation, the next choice you make about where your energy actually goes? Life gets lighter, not because people suddenly start treating you better, but because you finally stop giving your peace over the people who were never going to manage it as carefully as you would yourself. And part 8, your friends are a mirror. One last thing worth thinking with, because it quietly connects everything else. As kids, we didn't choose our friends, but as adults, every single friendship is a choice made again and again, whether we notice it happening or not. So here's a simple but genuinely uncomfortable question. Look closely at your closest friends, because you are looking at a mirror of your own life. Not because they're identical to you, but because who you spend your time with quietly shapes what you believe is normal, possible, and acceptable for yourself, often without you even realizing it. If you want to become someone who creates things, surround yourself with people who create things. If you want more calm in your life, it's worth noticing whether your circle actually runs on constant urgency and low level drama instead. This isn't about cutting people off dramatically, it's about noticing honestly and without judgment whether the people around you reflect who you're actually trying to become or quietly keep you connected to who you are trying to stop being. It's about noticing honestly and without judgment whether the people around you reflect who you are actually trying to become or quietly keep you connected to who you are trying to stop being. For a long time, I didn't want to accept that I wasn't getting enough love and support from certain people, and maybe if I'm honest, I wasn't giving enough to them. It is maybe the real reason is simply that they didn't love me quite that much, and the pain wasn't actually coming from that fact. The pain was coming from my refusal to accept it. I don't need them to explain themselves. I don't need to manage how they see me. What I do get to decide is how I spend my life, what my day actually is on my own terms. That in the end is the whole shift. And far more freeing that it sounds on paper. It takes the weight of other people's choices off your shoulders and hands your own life back to you fully. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. Thank you for listening. I love you.